Welcome to Project Me, the podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Carter, the founder of Project Me, multimillionaire entrepreneur, former TV newscaster, money-making expert, female empowerment speaker, and self-proclaimed office supply addict. My mission is to take the mystery out of making big money. Every week on Project Me, the podcast, I'll share success tips, strategies, and stories from other entrepreneurs, experts, and millionaires, showing you exactly how you can achieve your most exceptional life. Now let's get to it. You all know I love sharing my secrets of how I went from $17,000 a year to a multimillionaire. My top essential tool for managing my two successful businesses, plus my crazy life, is my paper planner. But not any random planner, specifically my Inner Guide yearly planner. The Inner Guide planner doesn't just organize my schedule, it helps me map out and discover my goals, dreams, self-care, and keeps my millionaire mindset on track. I want you all to get planning right away for 2019. So I arranged to get a special Inner Guide discount exclusive to my Project Me posse. Go pick out your favorite yearly planner at inner-guide.com. And at checkout, use the code PROJECTME 15% off, and you will receive 15% off your entire order. If you are driving or multitasking and can't write this down, the Inner Guide link and code is in my Instagram bio at Project Me with Tiffany. And remember, as I always say, you are either planning for success or heading to failure. Welcome to the podcast and posse, Project Me with Tiffany Carter. And this episode that you're listening to is when is the right time to hire help in your business? Yep, I know. That's a tough one because let me guess, you're either not making much money yet, if any at all, or you're making money, but you still are carrying quite a bit of debt because you're paying a high-level coach like myself, or you've invested in learning new things with different courses, or maybe you've gone to events like Tony Robbins and that kind of thing. So you've put a lot of money out there in order to gain the knowledge that you needed to put your business out there. So you still really aren't in the green, as I like to call it. You're not in the green because you still are carrying debt, which, by the way, you guys, is very normal for businesses. I don't know any business off the top of my head that has never carried debt. It's called debt carryover. It's very normal. And I'm talking for mega billion-dollar businesses down to small businesses. That's incredibly normal. Even if you watch the show, like if you guys ever watch Shark Tank, this is a common question, and they're not rattled by a company that has debt. They're rattled if you're not making revenue and you don't have a plan. So just keep that in mind. And if you don't watch that show, you should, because I think it will ease your mind about business and spending money to have your business do things correctly and the right way from the beginning, because it can cost a lot more later on to have to rework everything. And I know because I've made all the mistakes. When you've been in business for 11 years and you started it out as a side hustle while I was in corporate America, and I was terrified because I didn't want to leave my high-paying corporate job, right, and not have that money being made in my business, right? I was really scrapping and scrimping and trying to make sure that I didn't spend a lot of money. So I was trying to do all the things myself because I thought that's what I had to do in order to be able to make that transition faster, because obviously any money I spent was less money that I made. And I know you guys get what I'm saying. It's like, okay, if I buy this course and it's $500, or if I hire a coach and they're thousands of dollars a month, and I'm bringing in, let's say, $6,000 a month or $4,000 a month, now I'm back at zero, because now we also have all the platforms that if you want to have any sort of success in business and you have an online presence, which is necessary now, you have to spend money on all sorts of different platforms that add up to make your life easier. Whether it's editing software, if you have a podcast, you have to pay for all sorts of different things. They're small amounts, but they start adding up when you have, Dropbox Pro and Zoom Pro, and now you have Planoly, and you have all sorts of different things that start adding up, these $9.99 a month charges. When you start having 20 of them, now that's $200 a month. So my point in going through all that is, I get you guys. I was there. And something you may or may not know about me is I can be really cheap. And I like using the word cheap because that's what it is. It's not being resourceful. It's not being responsible. It's not being practical. Okay, those are all good things. I can tend to be cheap. It's when my own money mindset stuff comes up and I'll be like, I don't need to spend money on that. If I really do the math, this will take me 4 hours. And if I'm doing it, then really I'm saving, $2,000 versus paying someone else. And I go down this whole complex path and try to justify why I should do it myself. And I leave out the intangibles. I end up going down this whole path where I'm quantifying how much I, on average, bring in an hour, which I know that number and it's a lot. And so I start going down this whole path of, well, if I do it myself versus that person, I get in the weeds with the numbers and I leave out the intangibles, meaning my damn peace of mind, my well-being. How taxing would this task be on my energy level? Do I even enjoy doing all this admin stuff? Or do I enjoy building a funnel? And I don't ask myself that if I don't catch myself. That's why, thank God, I've had a coach all these years because he knows me well enough now to check in with me, and I pay him to do so, to check in with me to see where I'm. Basically, we joke because we have the long-term relationship now. Like, where are you being cheap, Tiffany? Because it really is being cheap. It's being short-sighted, and the person I'm short-sighting is myself. So here's the thing, you guys. When you're starting a business, I get it. Either you're starting already in debt because you want to include the courses, the coaches, the events, the programs that you've spent money on in order to launch the damn thing. So that's debt, but that's reasonable, solid, good business investment debt. That's okay. So I get it. But in your mind, it's like, I'm already in debt. So why in the hell would I hire someone? And I hear all these boss babes, talk about, you need to outsource. You need to outsource the things that aren't in your zone of genius. And you hear them say things like that, outsource. But meanwhile, right, they're already making multiple six figures, some are in the millions. And it's like, well, that's easy for them to say. They have the extra money to do that. And I can imagine only how irritating it is when you hear that. It's like, are you kidding me? Like, me paying for daycare alone is a lot of money, right? So I get where you're saying, and it's all relative too, right? Because my first company that I still run, my 7-figure company, TLC Enterprises, that is what is funding, right? Project Me with Tiffany. Project Me with Tiffany is actually profitable, and that occurred in less than a year, which still blows my brain out. But it's still funding, meaning I have a source of funding. I'm self-funded, right? So I don't have to go to a bank or a credit card like I did when I started my first company. But when I started my first company, you better believe mama was using her credit cards because there was no bank that was going to give someone as insane as me a loan from leaving a top management position in pharmaceuticals, making a lot of freaking money, you guys, okay? To go be an entrepreneur with something that I really couldn't even put into a business plan yet because I had no idea what the hell I was doing. So no one was going to give me a loan in that way. And I wasn't going to ask anyone for any money anyway, because that wasn't going to cut it for me. And truly, it wasn't really an option. It's not like I have some like rich uncle lying around. In fact, I have one living family member. So that really isn't an option. All right. So get back to, you're overwhelmed. This is me picturing where you're at. you're overwhelmed. There's all the things. There's the admin. Then you actually have to coach the person, or you have to film the videos, and you have to do the course, and you have to create the funnel, and then you have to do the email list. You have to do all your social content. It is a lot of stuff, and it really is pure insanity to try to do it all on your own. You can try it for a certain period of time, but then you're going to end up burning out, being resentful, and then that's going to come across in your messaging, in your videos, in your copy, in your energy, and it's not going to feel good. And it won't feel good to your customers either, or potential customers. People can read through that and smell that. In fact, when people are applying to work with me and for me to be their coach, I do go on, you guys, and stalk your asses. I go on and check out where you're at on Instagram, where you're at on Facebook. If you have a podcast, if you have YouTube, I go and check and see your energy and see where you're at. And I get a really good feeling. I can tell pretty quickly. Like, I can see behind the smiles, so to speak. I can tell. So, and that's not a bad thing. I'm not criticizing you for it. I get it. But I like to see where people are at. So here are some suggestions when you don't have all this excess cash to hire people. And instead of putting all that, dumping that loads and loads of work on yourself, which is just going to make you grow very slowly or grow backwards, which we don't want. So here's some suggestions. Hire interns, okay? Or a intern. So if you went to college or university, like I went to Emerson in Boston. What up, Emerson? Shout out. So you can go to the alumni office of any of your schools, whether it was a trade school or you went to, a full accredited university, and they have all sorts of programs. And since entrepreneurship, especially digital marketing, online entrepreneurship is such a hot thing right now, you will be able to find students, either, students who are in their fourth year or third year, that you're willing to bring on, for a semester, whatever it is, to intern with you. So that's one way to get free help. If you didn't go to a college or university or some kind of, trade school where you have access to this, you can still look for an intern who is wanting to learn the ropes in your field, right? It's someone generally, right, who's either younger than you, or maybe they're not younger. They just want to know, have an insight, and to learn how to do this whole thing. And you can probably find someone, okay? And one of the places that you can look is you can go on Upwork is one place. Now, Upwork is generally, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that again, is filled with more so people who want to charge, but there's like low paid internships, right? So you have to basically sell it to someone that they want to learn from you, and you're paying them almost no money to be able to learn. It's such a value add for them. So those are a couple options. Also, even if you didn't go to alumni relations, or you don't have access to that, I'm sure you have someone in your family or friends or someone at your regular coffee place or the gym who has a kid that's in college or even high school. I would stick with more of a junior or senior. They're looking to build up their college applications, and they're also looking to, build things on social media and an online business themselves. Like, this is the generation that's really thinking about that. I think it's called like Generation Z. It's like whatever's after whatever's younger than millennials. I think it's Z. So what are they going to do after Z, by the way, you guys? Because that's like the end of the alphabet. Just curious. Okay. So you can go and hire a junior or senior, but what you want to make sure is obviously like this is like a top student. They have worked before somewhere. And you can tell if they're being like kind of coerced or forced by their parents. You don't want that. You want, one of those like really ambitious teens, and that's great. Then they can come on, and it can be an internship to learn, or it can be low pay. Usually you don't have to pay them. They're really looking to show on their college application that they've done an internship like for an actual company. And it doesn't have to be some giant company, that they've actually done an internship, you've signed off. A lot of times in exchange, they might ask you for, you can offer, as long as they've done a good job for you, you can offer to write them a letter of recommendation, which is also needed when they apply to college, or for other jobs that they might be going for. So there's a lot of different ways, if you guys want and need help, that you can get it for free or very inexpensive. If you have some money to spend, or even if you don't think you do, right? Here's the thing. You want to hire before you're ready. That's the thing. And I have to keep telling myself that because I'm growing so fast. I'm needing to hire more people, but it scares me because I also know the more people I hire, then initially my revenue for my company doesn't look as nice. And my ego doesn't like that. It doesn't look as nice, right? Because my expenses are higher. So now the, so to speak, if you want to call it take home, doesn't look as high initially. It kind of slides backwards for a bit. But you have to remind yourself that in order to spring ahead in business, you genuinely do have to kind of pull back a little bit, meaning it kind of looks like on paper you're taking a few steps back, but to spring way ahead. So you're obviously hiring more people. And in order to help you to do and produce more things and have more clients and have more programs that you can sell. So yeah, initially, right, your take home isn't going to be as high because these people haven't started to work for you yet and started to free up your time and your mind to do more things. So just mentally prepare yourself for that. Okay. That's what I mean by like hire before you're ready. Just know that on paper, your brain, your ego isn't going to really love how that looks, but just keep remembering what I'm saying. Like this is part of business. It's just like when you see a company that does a rebrand, right? We've seen companies like Weight Watchers, now they're WW. That's like the big thing now is like to take out the full name. Like even the that hotel in Vegas, Treasure Island years ago, now they're TI. That's like, that seems to be the trend. It's like, listen, guys, we all know it's Treasure Island. Thank you. That smells awful inside. Don't sue me. #. Okay. So here's the thing is like, you have to do things when you rebrand, you change directions. Maybe you thought you wanted to make most of your money from, let's say, coaching or doing one-on-ones, and then you realize that's burning you out, so you need to do a different direction. You are going to take a dip in revenue initially, but as long as you're doing something that's in alignment with your intuition and your passion and your purpose, and you trust that, it will definitely spring ahead. So just keep that in your mind. Don't be cheap. Don't be cheap. Okay. 2 places where you can hire help just per project. And some of you may have already heard of these, but one I mentioned already is Upwork. That's a great one. Obviously, you don't want to just trust what you read. You do need to talk to someone on the phone, ask for proof of their work, blah, blah, blah. Do not pay up front. Some people require something up front to get the work started, which I respect and I recommend for you guys to do as well. That's how I work. That's okay, but don't pay them the whole thing up front, right? They get the other half of the cash when they've completed the task. The other thing is, and I might be pronouncing it wrong, Fiverr, Fiverr. Now on here, you're going to get a heavy international crowd, but that doesn't mean it's bad. Okay, especially when you're talking about technical stuff, not like heady conceptual strategy, not stuff like that I do and people hire me for, more so technical stuff. Like I need these buttons added to my website. I need my MailChimp to connect to this offer, and I need this offer to be housed somewhere. When you have specific things you want done technically, I absolutely recommend them. And the cool thing about however we pronounce it, Fiverr, whatever, The cool thing about it is you can see someone's ratings. It's almost like an Amazon review. So you definitely want to scroll through those and make sure someone didn't like pepper those themselves, but you can usually tell. And I got to tell you, out of the 10 times I've hired off of Fiverr, I've only had one experience that wasn't great, and it really wasn't bad. It just wasn't great, right? And it wasn't like I lost a lot of money. These people are incredibly inexpensive. And if you have any weirdness about hiring from certain countries, just because of like social stigmas, like the whole, outsourcing and all that stuff, I have to tell you, in a lot of countries, India, for example, most people in India have a master's degree education. They're more educated than people in the US. Also in countries like Philippines, for example, which you'll see a lot of people from Philippines that are on Fiverr, very technically advanced. They actually move in a lot of Asian countries at a much faster pace with technology. So even like the latest iPhones or the latest Google-based platform phones, those are released in those countries even prior to us seeing it. So they're actually in a lot of ways more technically advanced. And because this is how these people can pay their bills, is by doing this sort of work for Americans, Canadians, example, people in the UK, they know that. They have skin in the game. They want you to be happy. This is a lot of money for them. So what I've noticed is I actually get work that's done faster, more efficient, very well done. Fewer redos or, edits are required. Now, the flip side of it is I only speak English. I speak conversational French, and my Spanish is laughable. I don't speak any of these native languages of most of these people on there. So I will say it's a little frustrating to have them do stuff. You have to be visual, and a lot of them are hip to the skip, and they'll tell you. They want you to send them screenshots. And so that can be a little annoying and cumbersome, but you know what? You're paying almost nothing. And again, in my experience, it's done right. Like I had on my website, on my podcast page, I wanted buttons where someone lands on that page and they want to listen to Project Me with Tiffany Carter on iTunes, Spotify, Google Plus, Stitcher. All they have to do is click that button for their preferred platform, right? Because everyone has a preferred platform, and not everyone's on an iPhone, even though, I'm big Apple fan, but not everyone's on it. And so I had to take a screenshot of the page of where I wanted it on that page. I had to obviously, send my my official color number for my branding color. And then of course I went in to check the work and click the buttons, and I made sure the links worked, right? But I think that cost me, I don't know, maybe $12 US to have that done. What was I going to do? Sit in Google and figure out how to do that? First off, I don't know how to do it, nor do I have a desire to learn. So I think you guys are getting my point. Just be open-minded, but also make sure that you cover yourself. You check people's reviews. You make, sometimes on Fiverr, they do actually require you to pay a portion up front as well. But I can respect that. Just be cautious if someone wants it all up front. So then negotiate and say 50 up front, 50 when you complete. And if they're not cool with that, I would suggest finding someone who is, because would you have someone do some kind of construction on your home or work on your car and pay them all up front to do the job? Like that's a setup to get scammed. So I hope that this was helpful for you guys. If you found this pressing question that I get a lot from everyone, that's why I made an episode around it. I didn't just decide and come up with it on my own. If you guys found it helpful, or you have any follow-up questions or, things that are specific to your business, hit me up on Instagram at Project Me with Tiffany. DM me. Same goes for Facebook at Project Me with Tiffany. Message me, and you guys know I will answer you back. Also, I have a favor to ask you guys. If you do listen to the show or have access to iTunes, if you could write an iTunes 5-star written review for the show, I would really, really appreciate it. In order for the show to show up in more places, which will allow us to continue to get sponsors, which funds the show and all the great content, pays for my producer, my coordinator, etc. We need iTunes reviews. It's just something that you need, but I want them to be authentic and to come from you guys. So if you really do appreciate the information you get here, that's really all I ask in return, is just taking a minute and going on there and writing something and submitting. I would really, really appreciate it. Feel free to screenshot it and share it if you want to. I'll personally thank you and message you back, but I do really appreciate that extra help. So as always, you guys, wishing you great health, wealth, and worth. Talk to you soon. If you enjoyed this podcast, please write a 5-star review on iTunes. Not only will this make me super happy, but it will allow more listeners to find our special show. Simply help me help others.